ECSU faculty and staff. Let me start by commending you for your prompt and effective response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The last few months have been challenging. However, I have been overwhelmed by the dedication of each of you in ensuring a successful finish for the spring semester. And most importantly for your resilience as we continue to plan for our safe return to campus this fall. Please know that we are thankful for your commitment and dedication to ECSU. Thank you for all you have done and continue to do to support our Viking community. This afternoon, we will share with you our plans to create the safest possible environment for our employees, students, and visitors as we return to work and welcome students back to campus in the fall. Let's be clear, providing a quality education for our students and the health and safety of our employees and students and visitors are our utmost priority. With those two things in mind, we have developed guidelines for our return to campus. These guidelines include enhanced cleaning and disinfecting, social distancing, and adjusted academic calendar, as well as adjustments to business operations. This novel virus has forced all of us to adapt new patterns of behavior that are sometimes awkward and uncomfortable. We need to work together to reinforce the importance of engaging in all of the behaviors we know prevent the spread of the virus by following the following protocols: hand washing, staying home when you are sick, social distancing, wearing face masks, and showing we care about each other by doing what is right to help fight COVID-19. Following CDC guidance and per the newly issued statement by the UNC system, face masks and face coverings are now mandatory on the ECSU campus. All individuals, including vendors, contractors, and guests, are required to wear face coverings at all times when on the ECSU campus, unless they are alone in their office or personal space. Let me repeat that part. All individuals, so everyone within our campus community, as well as our vendors, contractors, and guests, are required to wear face coverings at all times when on the ECSU campus, unless you are alone in your office or your personal space. I have invited several cabinet members to share with you the steps we have taken to prepare to safely reopen our campus. We have been working very diligently throughout the last 3 months in preparation for the opening per the guidance of the UNC system and the governor's office. We will provide a brief overview of various areas that impact you most. We'll first hear from Vice Chancellor for Operations and General Counsel, Alan Goodson, and he will talk more about the measures we have taken to address campus health and safety concerns. We will then hear from our Provost, Farrah Ward, and she will discuss modifications to the academic calendar and instructional spaces. And last but not least, we will hear from our Interim Chief Human Resource Officer, Ms. Paula Bowe, and she will address your expressed concerns regarding COVID-19 related personnel policies and guidelines. Some of you have submitted questions in advance of today's town hall, and the panelists will answer those questions during their comments. If you have additional questions after you hear these presentations today, and actually during this town hall, submit them to CAM, that's CAM, at ECSU.edu. And we will try to address your questions with answers during this town hall meeting this evening. Again, if you have questions that come up while you're participating in this town hall, email them immediately to CAM, that's CAM, 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 at ECSU.edu. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll turn it over to Vice Chancellor Goodson to get us started with our first presentation.
Thank you, Chancellor, and Emily, it's good. Well, I wish I could see you, but it's good to see everyone. I know that a major focus of this virus has been our environment and how clean we keep it, and facilities is absolutely dedicated to that task. I want to start by what should you expect when you come to campus. You're really going to see the same things that you've seen out in industry. You'll see floor markers on the floor that help promote physical distancing. You'll see plexiglass barriers that help create a breathable barrier between a student or staff member and a particular service area. You'll see folks wearing masks. As the chancellor mentioned, one of the requirements that we have around campus are masks. So employees that service other employees or students, you'll see them wearing a mask. You'll also see signage. If you've been into a business, you've seen the one way in, one way out sort of focus. We're adopting that here on campus as well, and you'll see that signage for each building. You'll also see in particular areas where there are gathering spaces, you'll see an occupancy number of folks that should be in that particular space. You'll see signage up on the wall, and it will provide an occupancy number. So please be mindful of that as you travel around campus and as you congregate in certain spaces. One question that we always get is, well, how are we going to manage the cleaning environment with staff? Well, one thing I can tell you is the chancellor and the cabinet have dedicated resources so that we will have more than double the amount of staff that we currently have now cleaning some of our spaces. They're going to hit those high touch areas. They're going to stay on top of the areas, bathrooms, so on and so forth, that need to be addressed and need to be addressed regularly. So staffing, we should be very good and very strong on the housekeeping from a housekeeping standpoint. One thing that we had a discussion with the building coordinators last week, and each of your building has a building coordinator. If you're unsure of who that building coordinator is, that information is up on the campus website, the COVID-19 informational website. Go there, and you can see who that building coordinator is. That building coordinator is going to be your first point of contact if you notice a situation in your building where it may be unsanitary. That building coordinator is going to know exactly which housekeeper to go to and report that to, and hopefully get those things corrected very, very soon. Um, One thing that I can share is um, each building coordinator, along with each housekeeper, are going to be on a schedule in terms of cleaning. The provost has done a great job in providing us with a schedule where there are going to be breaks in the academic schedule where housekeepers can come in multiple times a day and hit the classrooms. We know that students are going to be in those areas. We want to make sure that there's an opportunity for staff to get in and clean those areas. And she provided us with a timeline to be able to achieve that. In addition, what you'll also see is hand sanitizer all around campus. You'll also see wipes all around campus. So we fully intend on providing the environment with as much hand sanitizer and wipes as possible so that you can keep your areas clean, but also you can keep your hands clean. Cleanliness is a task that we're going to have to work together on. Facilities can't wash their hands. You're going to have to do that yourself. Keeping your personal areas clean, we're certainly going to do our part, but we need you to do your part as well. That's why we're providing wipes and those things. If you want to have an additional sanitation to the areas that you'll have the wipes to be able to wipe down your phone or your computer or just the immediate area where you sit. So we hope that all of these measures will build confidence so that when employees and students navigate our workspaces, that they are confident that they are clean and that they have the tools to be able to get that done. So again, we certainly support your help in that regard, and our facility staff stands ready to be able to address any concern that you may have in any building related to cleanliness. With that, Chancellor, that that's all I have on the facility side. I think you're on mute. I think you're on mute.
Chancellor, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I have a tendency to do that. The goal here, and thank you, Vice Chancellor Goodson, the goal here is to create a culture of expectation where we are holding each other accountable for doing the right thing and keeping each other safe. And so these measures have been put in place, but it's also going to be up to our entire campus community to make sure we're doing our part. And that's, we're going to do all we can on this end, as you've heard Vice Chancellor Goodson describe, but we need everyone to buy into the expectation and the accountability of keeping each other safe. So thank you, Vice Chancellor Goodson. I'll turn it over to Provost Ward now to take us through some changes on the academic side.
In terms of academic affairs, of course, we have modified the academic calendar for the fall semester. We will begin 1 week early, so we will begin classes on August the 11th instead of August the 18th. We also will not have a fall break, and we will not be celebrating Labor Day as a campus or Veterans Day. The main reason behind this is so that one, we can decrease the student travel to and from campus. Once they get to campus, we hope that they will, of course, stay on campus. And also, we will be out before Thanksgiving. And so, whereas students would ordinarily break for Thanksgiving, go home, and then return to campus, all classes and finals will be finished on Tuesday, November the 24th. So once students leave campus on November the 24th, they will not return until the beginning of the spring semester. We have also made course modifications. We've been in contact with the faculty and made accommodations. Some of the classes that were initially offered face-to-face will now be offered online. In terms of course classroom capacity, the administrative assistants in the different areas did take photos of all of the classrooms. And so we were able to identify what the capacity of each classroom would be, instituting the recommended 6 feet of social distancing. We will also have in the classroom signage to let students know where they should sit. If there are tables, there'll be specific signs on the tables. If they have movable chairs, as is the case in some of the classrooms, there'll be signage on the floor letting individuals know where the desk should be at all times. And then if there are any kind of classrooms that have fabric, such as are in fine arts or Jenkins Science Center, we will have different signage on the different chairs to let students know where they should sit in order to make sure they have the 6 feet capacity, 6 feet distance between the classrooms. We've also relocated some of the classrooms. And so whereas normal for the maximum amount of time, faculty would have classes in the same building as their office, this semester, there will be some movement around campus. And so because certain large classes had to be located to larger rooms, individuals will not necessarily be in the same building as their office as usually is the case. As Vice Chancellor Goodson indicated, we have also allowed space between some of the classes so that each classroom is cleaned at least 3 times a day. There also will be some differences in the classroom delivery modes. We will have a variety of classroom types. It won't just be online or face-to-face this semester. We'll have some hybrid courses where a faculty member may meet with their classes, say on Monday, Wednesday, and then Friday will be online. We'll also have some modified AB days where half the class may meet on, say, a Tuesday, and then the other half will meet on Thursday. And so we are working on a common syllabus to make sure that we can communicate that information out to the faculty, of course, and of course the students. Masks will be required in the classroom, as the Chancellor and VC Goodson indicated. We do know that faculty will be concerned on how to enforce this with their students. We have worked closely with our Division of Student Affairs, particularly our Dean of Students office, and there will be a protocol if individual faculty need to escalate any student who is not wearing a mask. We do hope, though, to train our faculty and our culture across campus to make sure that everyone understands that wearing masks is a safety protocol that is required across campus. There will also be additional masks in classrooms in the event that an individual student just simply forgot their mask for that specific day. I do have one question that was sent in to the email, and I will read it. It says, I have breathing problems, and after reading the return to work policy, I'm afraid I will have problems wearing a mask while delivering a 90-minute lecture. Would it be possible to personally accept the responsibility to wipe down the lecture computer area before and after class, ensure 6 feet from all students, and deliver the lesson without a mask? I would wear a mask transitioning from the office to the classroom. We will work individually with faculty who have specific situations that prohibits them from wearing a mask for 90 minutes. We have also ordered face shields for those specific in faculty who have that, and we'll try to increase the 6 feet social distancing if that is the situation. And so any faculty who is experiencing that, we will send out a survey later on in the semester to see how we can best accommodate those faculty members. Those are the updates from the Division of Academic Affairs.
Okay, thank you, Provost. And I'll just reiterate that, every campus within the UNC system and across the entire country is going through certain measures such as this, especially if they have been deemed to open in the fall. And so, as the provost mentioned, everything that we are presenting today are things that we've thought about. We've received guidance from the system office, guidance from the CDC, guidance from the governor's office. And the reality is, these things are changing, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly. But we're doing the best that we can to plan for the information that we have as of today and as of now. And so, in thinking about even the 6 feet social distancing in the classroom, there's some debate around that as to whether it really can be 6 feet in every classroom. So, when she says that they have created an analysis of every classroom structure, that is something that has been spent, a lot of time has been spent on to make sure that our faculty and our students are safe in the classroom environment. So there may be some classrooms where there's 4 feet of space between, which is still acceptable by CDC standards. So I want to reassure you that we're not making these decisions all on our own, even though some of it is to the discretion of the individual campus, but we're using the guidance that we're receiving to make sure that we're in line with the best practices under the circumstances and also within what is being put in place across the UNC system for consistency. So thank you, Provost, for providing that insight, and we'll address more questions after Ms. Bowe provides more feedback on the personnel side from an HR standpoint. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Bowe at this time.
Thank you, Chancellor. I want to reemphasize some return to workplace points from an HR perspective that will assist employees as ECSU phases into the gradual return to on-site work of our employees. Regarding return to work provisions, each supervisor will decide which employees will return to work on site based on business and operational needs. However, the supervisors are encouraged to limit the number of employees in small office spaces to meet social distancing requirements and to reduce exposure. There are several strategies available to ensure that offices and units are managed effectively and safely. Those options include teleworking, using technology to limit face-to-face meetings, limiting the number of visitors in the office, and alternating and staggering employee work schedules. Each supervisor will have the responsibility of discussing their return to work on-site strategy with the employees in their office or unit. If an employee has a concern about returning to work on site because they are 65 years and older, are at risk due to underlying health conditions, or any other concern, please discuss alternate work arrangements with your supervisor. A return to work accommodation form is being developed for our employees requesting an alternate work arrangement, and that form will be placed on the Viking Compass and HR web pages. As far as personal protective equipment is concerned, as everyone has stated earlier, we have received guidance from the Office of State Human Resources informing state agencies and universities that all state employees who are able to do so are expected to wear cloth face coverings at all times while inside the work sites, unless you are alone in your office or personal space. So unless you are unable to do so for medical reasons or other valid reasons, employees will be expected to wear a face covering. Now, there are 3 special leave provisions that are available for employees who are unable to work on site or telework due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The first provision is emergency paid sick leave, which provides up to 80 hours of paid sick leave to employees who are unable to work or telework because they are subject to a federal, state, or local quarantine, if they have been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine, if they are experiencing symptoms of COVID-19, if they are caring for an individual subject to COVID-19 quarantine, or caring for a child whose school or place of care has been closed due to COVID-19. The second provision is the Emergency Family Medical Leave Act, which provides up to 12 weeks of leave for employees who are unable to work or telework because they are caring for a child whose school or place of care has been closed due to COVID-19. And then the third provision is the COVID-19 paid administrative leave. Employees who cannot telework because their position and duties cannot be performed remotely and reasonable remote work is not feasible, or have elder care needs due to COVID-19 related facility closings, they may receive COVID-19 paid administrative leave at 2/3 of their pay for the month of June and 1/3 of their pay for the month of July. Now, these special leave provisions are currently available through December 31st, and the form to request leave using these special leave provisions will be posted on the Viking Compass and HR web pages. Now, the mental and emotional well-being of our employees is one of our top priorities. So the Employee Assistance Program is a free confidential service to employees and members of their household. If you are experiencing personal or work-related challenges and concerns due to the COVID-19 pandemic, please feel free to contact ComPsych, our EAP provider. Their contact information will be added to the Viking Compass webpage. Also, please review and keep on hand the ECSU Return to Work guidelines for employees. As we adopt to the new normal, it will be important to understand and comply with these guidelines moving forward. As always, feel free to contact HR for any specific questions and concerns you may have. And please stay safe. And I'll now return it back to you, Chancellor.
Thank you, Ms. Bowe. I just want to reiterate these are personnel policies that have been put in place during this pandemic. And so the key to making this work is communication with your supervisor or your manager, whoever that may be. You need to make sure that you are communicating with them directly, whatever accommodations, whatever issues, whatever challenges that you face as an individual in meeting your job expectations if you fall into any at-risk category during this time. So keep all the information that Ms. Bowe presented, and as she mentioned, it's on the website so that you will have that there. But the key to making this work is communicating to your supervisor or manager your needs, and those needs will be taken care of on a case-by-case basis. And that's the best way that we'll be able to make that work. So I'm going to go to the chat, and there are, let's see how many questions. Let's see. There are two questions on the chat. One, the provost has talked about, and I think Attorney Goodson also relayed some information on a bit of this question as well. So I'll let both of you reiterate what you've already said to answer this one, but I'll read it. How is the faculty being protected in the classrooms and offices? Will plexiglass shield be provided for faculty offices and or classrooms / labs where there is usually close interaction with students? Provost, would you like to talk a little bit about that? And Alan, I don't know if you want to add anything about the plexiglass piece.
Yeah, as I indicated, we did make modifications to the classroom setup. Again, I'm so glad the chancellor reiterated that actually 1 meter, 3.3 feet is the minimum. Of course, 6 feet is what they're looking for. And in most cases, we were able to do the 6 feet. There are some cases where we maybe, 4.5 or 5 feet, but there is also 6 feet from the professor's desk and the first student's desk. We moved some of the chairs back. We do not have the plexiglass as of right now. In terms of faculty office hours, that is the next thing that we're considering. And so we'll probably be working a lot on having virtual office hours. Of course, not all offices are the exact same dimensions. And so in some offices, it will be possible for a faculty member to adhere to the 6 feet social distancing and still meet with their students, and others it won't. And so we're just working through that on a case by case basis in terms of the actual office hours.
Okay, thank you, Provost. VC Goodson, do you have anything to add?
Yes, ma'am. Just one additional data point. On the study, Chancellor, that you sent me, I believe it was last week, it talked about the importance of masks and how that really limits spread. I think as the provost mentioned, facilities is going to put a certain number of masks in every classroom. So even if a student forgets their mask when they show up, we don't want you not to deliver the services. We want you to be able to provide a mask to the student if they need that. We're also going to do that in other service areas around campus too. So it's just not going to be limited to classrooms. It's going to be limited. It's also going to be expanded to other student service and employee service. So I think once we combine social physical distancing with masks, again with the regular cleaning schedule and hand sanitizer and wipes, I think we have certainly met our obligation in terms of making sure the environment is as safe as possible. And on the facility side, we will certainly, if the provost needs some plexiglass installed in a particular lab because that lab is unique, we'll certainly do our best to respond to that.
Okay, thank you, VC Goodson. Thank you, Provost. Okay, the next question. Are there student engagement activities planned to keep students from going home on the weekends? And Vice Chancellor Brown is not on this call. He will be on the town hall call on Thursday with students and parents. But I can answer that one and say that the goal is yes, we are looking at student engagement activities, working with the student body president, Jimmy Chambers. Of course, the reality is we cannot mandate that students stay on campus and don't go home on the weekends. But what the students are doing is peer-to-peer expectation within the culture of keeping each other safe. And so hopefully in doing that, holding each other accountable, students will understand the significance of remaining on campus to not put their families at risk or their campus community at risk by going back and forth. And so that's something that the Student Affairs Office is working on with the student body president to make sure that students have things to do on campus that are also exercising social distance and other things to keep them occupied and keep them on campus on the weekends. Next question. Are we planning to hold in-person commencement exercises in August and December? Provost, I'll turn that one to you.
So of course the students voted and they desired to have a August commencement. We do realize right now the state of North Carolina is still limiting indoor gatherings to 50 or more students. So the commencement committee is currently working on how we best achieve the celebration of our May graduates, while also adhering to the social distancing. So at this time, we are not 100% sure, have made a decision on how that will be carried out, but we will, of course, make sure that we are keeping our faculty and students and families as safe as possible when we announce exactly how commencement in August will be celebrated.
Yeah, and I'll just add, hopefully we will be able to provide more specifics to that. But as I mentioned, and you all know, these things are changing daily, weekly, and it just depends on how things are forecast once we reach July, which should be the peak, what's this anticipated of the virus, how that impacts where we go in August in regards to commencement. So please stay tuned to that. Okay, the next question, I think this is you, Attorney Goodson. Will building and classroom entrances, exit paths be altered to facilitate social distancing, i.e., certain doors labeled enter only and then other doors labeled exit only?
The answer to that question is yes. We're working on signage now so that we can have enter only exits and exit only exits as well. And then what we also plan to do is at those entry points, have um, some sort of reminder to for anyone who enters the building to, hey, make sure you have your mask, make sure you wash your hands, and make sure you practice social distancing. Hopefully, as people come into the building and they see that, they'll remember, they'll do that kind of quick mental check. Okay, I got my mask, got to make sure I wash my hands, I'll make sure I'll stay apart. So hopefully all those things will help us as we continue to do our business through our campus.
And another thing we did talk about, we'll make sure to have signage on elevators
Yeah.
where we will have only 2 to 3 people on an elevator ride per ride up or down. And we'll have signage there to show you what the capacity number is for that. And then also on the floor where people should stand. And you may have seen that in doctor's offices and other places, but you'll see signage like that across campus, as Attorney Goodson mentioned. Okay, next question. Will the number of faculty in their offices in a specific building at any given time need to be monitored to ensure safe social distancing, i.e., keeping buildings at 50% capacity or similar?
So capacity is certainly something that we're looking at in each particular building. We've asked each manager to put together their plan for operations, and that will help us. One, it will help the managers dictate what a schedule looks like for their particular unit and how it impacts the overall building. So it is something that we're looking at. We're going to do our best to certainly do our best to limit capacity in those buildings. But also keep in mind that there are certain operations that we have to continue. So we'll do our best to be able to manage the capacity. But as Ms. Bowe noted, if managers are using flexible work schedules, teleworking the employees who need to be telework, doing intermittent scheduling, it should work itself out in the end.
Okay, thank you. Next question is for the provost, and it states a lot of classrooms have no technology, no computers or projectors. This makes it difficult to record lectures. Also, makes it different to record lectures, allow students to participate using technology and accommodate class size. Is there a plan to put technology in these classrooms?
So this summer we have been outfitting some of the classes on campus, some in Dixon Hall, Lane Hall, some in Jenkins Science Center. Of course, there's a outside vendor who comes and puts the classroom technology in, and so they have a capacity for those classrooms that we are not able to actually permanently install in advance of the fall semester. We are now looking at actually getting some mobile units, so mobile computers, mobile projectors, so that we can put in place inside those classrooms that are not already outfitted with technology. So the answer is yes, we do recognize that and we are working on that.
Okay, thank you, Provost. Provost, this is another one for you. What are your thoughts on ensembles, specifically choir, functioning this academic year in a face to face class since all professional organizations associated with singing have suspended such until 2021 due to the aerosols and high COVID-19 cases associated with choirs?
Yes.
Also,
Oh,
there's another part with that. If mandated to meet, will students be provided face shields by the university, or would they be required to purchase them out as a part of their course material?
I'll answer the last part first. If we were ever to mandate face shields, just like we're mandating masks, and I know this hasn't come up, but we will be providing students and staff with masks as well. And so that's one thing. And so if we were to mandate face shields in a music ensemble, we would be providing that to the students. In terms of the classes, I will say that music and choir and band has, of course, whoever asked that, I'm sure knows, is one of the courses that a lot of individuals across the country are looking into. And so I've worked with the chair of the Department of Music and Visual Arts to come up with a plan. We do have an initial plan. I believe I have another meeting this week with the chair and the dean of that area to really come up with what the best strategy. I'm also in close contact with the provost at the North Carolina School of the Arts, who is working with their experts there to come up with what the actual plan is to deliver those courses. And so I guess, to be honest, we do not have that 100% figured out, but trust and believe that it is an area that we know must be adjusted. We've opened up fine arts. We're not booking any of the classes. I'm sorry, we're not renting fine arts out to any outside agency this fall semester in case that is a possible venue, also as well as K White. So those are two things. I hope in the next week or so we will have a more definitive answer on exactly how we will be delivering the music and the choir courses.
Thank you, Provost. Attorney Goodson, will health services be available to test for COVID-19 on campus? Will students and all personnel be mandated to test upon our return? And I know VC Brown could answer that, but just from your standpoint and working with the emergency management team, do you have any insight that you want to provide about that? You're on mute. Mute.
So health services will not be actually doing any tests here on campus. The way our region works is they coordinate directly with the local area health and health department, and they help facilitate testing for anyone on campus who may or may not need that. In terms of employees, related to, the question was, are we mandating employees? We will not be mandating employees to test before they return to work. But this does bring up an important point. One thing that you'll see on the campus website, and again, this goes back to the narrative, Chancellor, that you stated earlier, where we can't do this by ourselves. We really need employees to do their best to self-check before they come to work. Same thing with students. We provided information up on the campus website that goes through a checklist of different things that you can, different self-health monitoring techniques that you can help identify potential issues. For example, if you're running a fever or if you develop a cough, those are certain circumstances that could mean that you may have COVID. And under those circumstances, we want you to not come to campus, but contact your supervisor immediately, tell them what's going on, and then, obviously contact your healthcare provider. But this highlights an important point that we're not going to be able to do this all on our own. We really need folks to monitor. Now, there have been some cases, and I'm sure everyone's aware, where folks may not have symptoms. And, we do the best we can around those. But if everyone can wake up in the morning and do a self-evaluation, that would be very helpful and certainly help the environment protect itself.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. VC Brown is working on, he and his team, working on the questionnaire, the pre-evaluation type of questionnaire that you get when you go to the doctor's offices now and to the dentist, just making sure that you don't or aren't showing any type of symptoms. But also each student, I know he's planning to have like a package that we give each student when they arrive on campus that will have their mask and thermometer and things like that in there. So those students who are living on campus, we're going to encourage them to take their temperature with the thermometer that they're being given, and also as VC Goodson mentioned, it's going to be holding each other accountable from the standpoint of if you see that you're having some type of symptoms, it's up to you to relay that to your supervisor or whoever it is that needs to be told so that they can direct the student, faculty, or staff to the right people to get the test. And that's going to likely be, as he mentioned, the health department in the local community. Okay, so the next question is, when will we be required to transition from remote work? And Ms. Bo, I don't know if you want to take a stab at that one first and I can jump in.
One of the things that we're waiting on is the lift from the governor to go to phase 3. So once we get the green light from the governor, then that information will be communicated to the Office of State Human Resources, the UNC System Office, and to the chancellors. And then the chancellor will then communicate with the executive cabinet as to when we will lift that and everybody return.
Thank you, Ms. Bo. I don't think there's anything else I can add to that one, but that's exactly right. So once we know from the governor's office, that will be communicated to our campus community as to when everyone will return to work. Now that also doesn't mean that everyone will return at one time. It may be a phased in approach, especially if there's any restrictions or limitations on the number of people that can be in a building at a time. We just have to wait and see kind of how those pieces of it flush out. So there's still a lot of uncertainty, but we're planning based on the information we have now. And that's the key to this whole conversation. Okay, how will bottlenecks before and after classes around elevators be addressed with elevator capacity being lowered to 2 to 3 people, same as crowding on stairs? And I think well, go ahead, Attorney Goodson, go ahead.
So, Chancellor, as you mentioned, each elevator is going to have a capacity limit. What we have agreed to is no more than 2 people on an elevator. In terms of how do we manage crowding? I think this kind of goes back to some level of personal responsibility. We're asking folks to social distance, right? Physical distance from each other. So keeping those spaces, being mindful of that as we travel throughout campus. It is the way that we're going to be able to help manage crowds of people. Just being mindful of your environment. If a student looks outside or an employee sees a hall and it looks like it's crowded, maybe you delay for a minute or two until it lightens up, so you can keep that physical distance requirement, campus standard that we put in place.
Right.
I will also add that because we're reducing the capacity of the classrooms, that will automatically decrease the number of students who are in a building at any time. So where a classroom may have had 30 students initially with I call COVID-19 capacity, it may only be 15 students. So I think that coupled with what VC Goodson indicated will help reduce the capacity and the bottlenecks.
Thank you. And the last question I have here is, how should we respond to a student, employee, or guest who refuses to wear a mask when interacting with others?
So, what I can say about that is, for an employee, it's a requirement of the work that you do. So we're expecting them to wear masks. For students, I know that Student Affairs has put together sort of a framework, which I'm sure they'll share out to all the employees. But essentially, it's a way that you can escalate concerns to a particular person in Student Affairs, and they will pull that student in and begin some dialogue with them. And I believe that starts at the Dean of Students, if my memory serves me correctly. But they're putting together some framework. I'm sure they'll send that out to the campus. The goal is really to encourage people in our environment to stand fast to our standards. And if you are getting some non-compliance, again, if it's particularly a student, there is a mechanism where you can report that up to student affairs, and it will begin a dialogue immediately with the student to help them adjust to these community standards that we put in place.
Okay, did you want to add anything, Provost? Okay. All right, thank you, Vice Chancellor Goodson, for that response. And there's another question here. Will the campus community be notified if a member of the staff, faculty, or a student tests positive for COVID once campus reopens? And if there is a case on campus, how will that affect operations on campus?
So that's one that we're still waiting on some guidance from at the system office. I know that I believe VC Brown either has a call today or tomorrow with other student affairs professionals, and that's going to be a question that's being asked. I know Ricky Freeman, emergency management coordinator, is doing the same. We're waiting on some guidance to help determine, what level of communication out to the campus environment is appropriate, because we certainly have to balance that with the healthcare and privacy concerns, which is also, is an entitlement to anyone who catches or anyone who may contract COVID. In case of I think the next question is if there's a case on campus, how would that affect operations on campus? I think it really is we're going to take that case by case basis. I think we're going to have to get that information. Obviously, contact tracing is going to be important, and then how we continue to staff or operate that particular unit may be augmented based on that. But in terms of a general answer for that, I cannot give you. But on a case by case basis, I think we're going to have to take it and make some adjustments along the way. This plan.
Go ahead.
So I was just going to reiterate, a point that you made. This plan is certainly a living plan. It's one that will be subject to changing as new and different guidance is pushed down from the system office.
Definitely. I just want to add that we have some plans in place for students who may contract the COVID-19. And we have designated space already in place for quarantine spaces for students. So if we have any of our students who are residents who live on campus, we have quarantine space already accounted for that we would use if a student contracts COVID-19. Now, for our faculty and staff, of course, you stay at home. But for our students who live on campus, we wanted to make sure we had that space. And if we go beyond capacity of the space that we have for quarantine on our campus, then we'll have to look at either outside space or look at making a decision about how we move forward with campus operations from the system office and all those who need to add to that part of that conversation if we get to that point. So to answer your question, that we have the student piece of it where we have a plan for that for quarantine space. But faculty and staff, if you have COVID, stay home. And so that will keep the spread minimal on campus by you going into quarantine or isolation on your own. Okay, it looks like that's all of our questions that we have for the town hall today. And I just want to thank all of you for your participation in today's town hall meeting. And thank you to the presenters, our cabinet. Thank you, VC Goodson and Provost and Chief Human Resource Officer, Ms. Bowe. Thank you so much for providing these critical updates and information to our faculty and staff. We are also hosting a town hall meeting this Thursday evening for our students and their families to share important information, as you've heard today, and provide them with updates about their return to ECSU for the fall semester. As guidelines and protocols are ever changing, and you've heard this many times during this town hall today, we are acting on the information we have as of today, and whatever information we get tomorrow, next week, this is a living document. Things change, and I think we're going to see that throughout the semester as those who are monitoring COVID and the spread and the increase of cases, as they're making decisions at the state level, the federal level, we will have to, of course, fall in line with all of that. So it is important, though, that we all stay on the same page and we focus on communication, communication with each other, communication with managers, supervisors, so that everyone is held accountable for keeping each other safe and that we are doing all we can to make sure that our entire campus community is safe. There are no guarantees, but we can put forth an effort, and that's what's going to be important. With all of this in mind, we have created the Viking Compass webpage. Please go to that webpage. We have there any and everything you want to know, and we're trying to make sure that we keep you updated and that we inform you of everything that's happening as we try to help each other navigate the changes that we will see in preparing for the fall semester. We'll also use social media and emails to provide updates to the Viking community as often as we can. We are practicing transparency here, but we also know that things change quickly, and we will do all we can to make sure our social media outlets have the most up to date information that we have at this time. And I'll tell you, the chancellors are meeting every week on Thursdays across the system. We meet every week. The provosts are meeting every week. The legal counsel, Vice Chancellor Goodson, is meeting every week, and so is HR every week. So we are meeting with our colleagues from all 17 institutions weekly to discuss these situations as they pop up and how we are preparing to open for the fall and make sure our faculty, staff, and students are safe as we all embark on the uncertainty of COVID-19 and the impact it has made on our campus, as well as our state and our country and the world. And so please be patient. Please ask questions. We will get you answers as soon as we can, but it's so much so much uncertainty that people just don't have the answers sometimes right away, and we're all waiting for guidance and data to help us make the best decisions. So let's all remain safe and well as we live, work, and learn together. Again, I thank you for your attention, and we will continue to update you. But do check out the Viking Compass webpage and keep your eye on social media. And thank you all once again for all of what you have done, all that you're doing, and all that you're going to do to make sure that our great university remains successful. Thank you again, and have a wonderful evening.